All right, it's 1 o'clock and we are live for a live stream Tuesday. As you can see, I have gotten my extra special crypto glasses on to really make the crypto boom go boom. Yep. All right, so in this live stream, we're going to talk about crypto. We're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about really all the stocks associated with crypto because when you look at what is going on and some of like the sudden changes, I mean, all of you know that I often say, it's slowly and then suddenly. And there's never been a better example of that going on this week. I mean, whether it be Bitcoin price, which I mean was literally at 58,000, was it a week ago, 5 days ago? Suddenly it's at 70, 71. I know it's up and down, but nonetheless, sudden jump. And then Bitcoin ETF flows, they were seeing small outflows, and people are like, it's all over, Paul. It's all over. The whole thing's a fad. It's a pretend coin. Just throw it away. And suddenly, yeah, $1 billion comes in a week. And then, most shockingly of all, Ethereum, which the SEC, I think, literally did they just sue I believe they sued the Ethereum Foundation, I think a week ago, might have been 10 days ago. And then suddenly, yesterday on X, previously Twitter, it's like, oh, by the way, the SEC is looking to approve a Ethereum ETF. So like, whoa, out of the blue, just suddenly, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, and that tells you that there is a sea change underway. There is a sea change underway that is going on, whether it be about Bitcoin, whether it be about Ethereum, whether it be about crypto. And yeah, I mean, you can get on the train next year. You can get on the train at the end of this year when prices are higher, or you get on the train now when at this point, the vast majority of the market is not paying attention. They're focused on whatever, AI, they're focused on NVIDIA, etc. But remember, you got to buy the stuff cheap to get the big gains, right? And so that you got to be ahead of the market, because if you're buying it when it's already pumped by 500%, 700%, well, I mean, you can make some small money, but I like to make the big money. All right, before I get into the heart of this week's live stream, let me do my legal disclosure stuff, which is that this live stream and the content from ATG Digital Media is not investment or financial advice. It is presented to all of you as opinion, information, engagement, and most importantly, entertainment. All ATG Digital content may contain errors, oversights, mistakes. We are human beings. Yeah, I mean, so things like that gonna happen. And it's important for you to understand that investment operations, which is what? Buying or selling a stock, buying or selling a crypto, getting involved, buying or selling options, have significant risk and can lead to the loss of your principal. Next, the owners, employees, contractors, own, trade, transact in the securities that are mentioned in this video and all content from ATG Digital Media. And this is a new one because I have come to learn that my old business, some people were caught doing this. We do not take money from companies or crypto issuers or promoters to recommend their stocks or crypto tokens. This is apparently something that is, I don't know, widely done. I have no idea. I have never taken money from someone, even though I have often been sent emails like, hey, can we have a chat? We'll give you blah, blah. I'm like, nah, no thanks. No need to mess with that. And then, here is all the free stuff we put out, the Substack, Ballman Speculating Podcast, YouTube, which I'm on at present, so we don't need to go through that. And then quickly here's social media. X has rebranded, so I have to change that, but I'm very active on X/Twitter, Instagram, mild. Facebook, Dean is always on, putting crazy memes, having a good time with all kinds of things. And if you want a subscription from ATG Digital Media, they begin at $9.99 a month. And I think I'm going to take these off because they're starting to give me a headache. All right. Hmm, why is that not stopping? There we go. All right. I also want to warn you, I went to India to see my mom, and I came back, and a few days later, I have a bit of a cold. So I have to stop, and I have explosive sneezes, right? So I'm gonna have to like really step away, maybe mute the microphone for a second to take care of business. So I just want to give all of you fair warning. If you have headphones on and you have it cranked up high, if I sneeze, yeah, it will definitely have some impact. I just want to warn you ahead of time. All right, let's get to the matter at hand here. And most of the stocks that are going to benefit from this crypto boom. But let's get, before I put the stocks up, why a boom? Like, why a boom? Well, the reasons for a crypto boom are as follows. Right? One is that we have this new technology. It's very unusual in the sense that we don't usually get a new technology in money. I mean, the last new technology in money was what? Paper money. Yeah, I mean, and then it went through a period where it was attached to the old form of money, which was what? Gold money, metallic money, and then it got completely freed away from it and became what's called fiat money. Either way, you don't often get these. I mean, it's like once every 100 years, something like that. So once in a century type like event that is unfolding. And there's always a crossover moment in between, like where we go from like gold, we go to fiat, where you go from like fiat and you're like, oh, I don't know about this crypto. I don't know about this Bitcoin. What is it? It's all pretend. I mean, what if the code, like, is all messed up, all this stuff? And the reality is that in 2024, which is about 15 years from when Bitcoin first was like put out there, where the white paper gets put out, the first Bitcoin get mined, we're ready. We're ready. We're ready. I mean, we now have an ETF that has taken in, when I last checked, about $12 billion in US dollars. In other words, people are exchanging US dollars for Bitcoin willingly, right? Some of them obviously want the gain, some of them want the hedge, but whatever it is, we now have a large group of people around the world who are like, yeah, we can see the fault with the old style of money, which is that number one, it's issued by governments, and the governments really don't have an interest in creating money that is a store of wealth. They have an interest in creating money that is liquid, that is a medium of exchange, that can be easily transacted in, where you can pay your taxes in, that they can spend freely. But a store of value? Yeah, no. Then, okay, the other side, which is that the government has licensed all of these financial institutions, banks, transaction processing companies. Yeah, who am I talking about? Well, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, MasterCard, Visa, and all of them have built like these enormous, yeah, like octopi like businesses that just suck money. Oh, transaction here, 1.5%. Transaction here, 2.5%. Transaction here, 4.5%. Transaction here, 6%. You want to send money, you pay a fee. You want to pay for something with a card, you pay 2.5%. You want to pay for your utility bill, it's 0.5%, 2%. So they are built like this enormous value sucking, money sucking enterprise that benefits them in a very big way. It benefits us as well to some extent. I mean, it's obviously has some level of convenience, but if everyone is taking so much, like you really start the impact of it. And crypto at its present, yeah, I mean, they can provide the same functionality way cheaper, way faster. And it can be global, and it can be efficient, and you can have far less issues around trust, which is like you make a payment and somebody else doesn't receive it. Now you got to go back to be like, hey, by the way, I sent this payment. They're like, oh, well, check with your bank and ask and see. And the bank's like, well, we made the payment. And then the other side says, well, we didn't get it. So with crypto, because it's on the blockchain, yeah, You want to know if the payment was made? Go on the blockchain. Here is your proof, and you are done. Long story short, we have the makings of a boom. Why? Because we have a technology that is better. We have a technology that provides the same utility at a lower price, provides the same utility with far fewer trust issues, and has a level of speed that you could just never get with old school banking. I mean, Fed now theoretically provides faster settlement. However, when I move money, it still takes about 24 hours, if not more. With crypto, instant, instant. And most of all, this is really the big one. This is really the big one, which is that the setbacks that the government has experienced over the last 1 year. I mean, just think about the number of defeats that the Securities and Exchange Commission, which has made it its job to essentially try and block, stymie, obstruct crypto in every way, shape, or form. Look at how many defeats it's taken, right? They have effectively lost the XRP Ripple lawsuit where they said, they're like, yeah, XRP is a security and you essentially need to go out of business. Well, Ripple, which is the organization that issues XRP, is like, yeah, we don't feel like doing that. We're going to fight you. And people are like, yeah, they'll never win. You know what? Yeah, I mean, they were able to prove a case like, hey, the SEC apparently told people for a long time that they thought that Ethereum was a commodity. And so, yeah, it was, it's like oil. It's like whatever, natural gas, like copper, whatever you want to call it. And then they changed their mind, except they didn't really fully change their mind. They were never not willing to commit to actually saying like, oh, no, they're like, no, it's a security. And then when people said, well, if it's a security, then what are the rules that apply to us? They wouldn't lay rules down. Bottom line, they lost. Then they were like, we will never approve a Bitcoin ETF. You can sue us. And so it took like nearly 10 years. But then they folded. And now, yeah, Ethereum, literally last week, they're suing the Ethereum Foundation. And now suddenly like, hey, all okay. Why? What is going on? Well, I have to believe that if you are in Washington, D.C., and you are privy to the people that make policy, make decisions, yeah, they are getting some significant heat from congressmen, from senators on like, what are you doing? What are you doing? We do not want the entire crypto industry to go somewhere else. We do not want our constituents who own Bitcoin, who own Ethereum, who own crypto, pissed off at us. They are calling us all the time. So, in other words, whatever you want to call it, the elite, the institutions, whatever, yeah, they're essentially in the process of folding their cards slowly because they got to save face a little bit, and they're going to go home. And we're going to have something like explode into being that has never been before. We have never had a crypto-based finance system. And I'm not saying it's going to go from 0 to 100% like in 2024, 2025. But for crypto to take 3 to 5%, I mean, the financial system is worth, $60 trillion. Yeah, I mean, this would be huge. It'd be absolutely huge. For us to go from 3 to 5 or 7 or 10%, I mean, it's a little bit like, in the 1990s, the idea that online shopping would become, the dominant form of shopping in the United States. People used to laugh. I mean, that's why they thought Amazon was a bubble in the 1990s. And arguably for that time, you could say it. But the investors who were focused on the future, they were right, which is like today, online shopping, everybody offers it. It's dominant. And Amazon didn't take 100% overnight. They had a 1 or 2%. Still, that incremental growth was so big that, Amazon stock and obviously its business has rocketed higher. And that's what I expect to happen for companies that have attached themselves to crypto. And in this live stream, I'm going to lay out 5 companies. There's one company, one stock, which is not a company. It's the Grayscale Ethereum Trust. And I just wanted to provide some numbers there because The Grayscale Ethereum Trust at some point in time traded at a 60-something% discount to the underlying Ethereum. Today, it's sitting at something like 10, 11%. And you'll see when I put it up, I think about a week ago, it was 20, 25%, something in that range. But let's go through some of these companies, all right? So in my judgment, in my opinion, and remember this live stream, my view of the world, not guaranteed, not certain, but here are five stocks to benefit from the crypto boom. Most of these are obvious, right? Most of these are obvious. I mean, Coinbase, maybe for some, Robinhood is not obvious. MicroStrategy, in case you don't know, they own the largest corporate treasure trove of Bitcoin. Marathon Digital is a crypto miner. And then ETHE, Grayscale Trust. And the reason I put that in there, because this is the trigger for the SEC to approve a Ethereum ETF. So they're the ones that sued the SEC, and this is the one that's actually there, and it's trading at a discount. Why? I don't really know. Why was it trading at a 50% discount? I don't really know. I mean, human psychology is that we tend to sell things that have fallen in price, and we like to buy things that are rising or have like gone up a great deal in price. That's the nature of who we are as people. We'll go, because it always feels bad to, to own thing that like looks like this. On the other hand, this, yeah, that feels good. All right, but let's talk a little bit about some of these and what has been going on at these companies recently that kind of makes like my point clear. All right, so let's look at Coinbase, for example. All right, look at their results. This is like their last 4 quarters, right? I mean, from the first quarter of 2023 to quarter 1 2024, yeah, their revenues have nearly doubled. Yeah, doubled from $736 million to nearly 1.6 billion dollars. And you can see that in the past, because Coinbase was young, because they were still building their stack, their technology stack, their infrastructure, they didn't always make money. But look at this. Yeah, I mean, some of this is boosted by gains of Bitcoin and Ethereum that they hold, but still they are making money. That adjusted EBITDA tells you, like, yeah, they are making money. And when you think about this, like, where else can you get 100% exposure to crypto, the transaction side of crypto? There's no other publicly traded cryptocurrency institution. I mean, because Coinbase is more than just an exchange. They hold your crypto, they're a custodian for crypto, and they charge institutions for that. The BlackRock ETF, is custodied at Coinbase. Grayscale is custodied at Coinbase. So they make a lot of money through like ancillary services and things like that. And it's only going to get bigger as what? Companies, governments, high net worth individuals, asset managers. Why? I mean, because it takes a lot of money to build an infrastructure to hold crypto. You have to make sure that it is unhackable. So you got to have extraordinary amounts of protections. And yeah, these are data heavy. So you got to have very large computers on. You cannot just turn this on in a second. So as this crypto boom unfolds, if you're beyond a certain size, there's only one company really that you can deal with. This one, Coinbase. They effectively have built a kind of monopoly. Like it's like a mixture of the New York Stock Exchange, a mixture of these like kind of like unknown banks that's like State Street, and Bank of New York that are in the custody and transaction side of it. And then they're also an asset manager like BlackRock, and it's all together in one. And that's kind of like what you get if you own Coinbase. The idea that, that we would have a crypto boom without Coinbase doing something extraordinary in terms of its stock is, in my judgment, unthinkable. I think people can question like, well, Paul, I don't know about your crypto boom thesis. Well, hey, fair enough. Obviously, it hasn't happened, so it's speculative. But nonetheless, if it happens, it will, in my judgment, not guaranteeing anything. Coinbase is going to go up to it. And if you go and look, what is the previous high on Coinbase? And I'll put up some charts in a bit. What is the previous high? I believe it's 300. It's at 200 today. So we're still $100 away from its previous high. But where's the next high? Well, I mean, we're going to see more volume. We're going to see more customers of every kind, retail, institutional. The earning power here at like what, 3-6 months after the bottom is quite significant. They're at 1.6 billion in revenue. And remember, their cost structure, because they are a digital company, they are a virtual company, is mostly kind of fixed. Those computers, yeah, they got to add on some capacity, but once you put it into place, it's fixed. So as the volume goes up, as the customers come on, you are going to see Coinbase just mint money. That's my experience from having been big investors in these financial companies like the New York Stock Exchange when I was at my hedge fund. Yeah, as the volume goes up, their costs really don't budge that much. So the profit is huge. The market loves that. They will come and bid it higher. So that is stock number one to benefit from the crypto boom. Now, stock number two might surprise people. Because, yeah, they may not think of Robinhood as being a sort of a crypto leveraged company, but look at that purple highlighted section. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So this is from their last, this was May 8th, so their last quarter. So their revenues jumped by 40% overall to 618 million. But look at that little detail. Yeah. I mean, it was primarily driven by cryptocurrencies, which were up 232%. 232%. Yeah. So in other words, Robinhood, unlike the analog legacy brokers like Schwab, and Fidelity and others, I mean, TD Ameritrade, they have been very early on the crypto train and they are benefiting. So as more people come, drawn in by whatever, hey, I just heard there's an Ethereum ETF. Hey, I just heard, obviously speculative, Bitcoin just hit 100,000 or 70,000 or 80,000. Where are they going to go? Well, you can't buy crypto at Schwab. You can't buy crypto at TD. You can't buy crypto at Fidelity. You can obviously go to Coinbase, but that's purely, you have to open up a separate account. Here, this is a stock account and a crypto account, and you can kind of like do all of it together. So they are quite levered, not as levered as Coinbase to the crypto economy, but they are pretty levered. I mean, 232%, 126 million. And remember, that's just one quarter. That's just one quarter. So you can bet that as Bitcoin goes up and down, I mean, what, it was at almost at 72 last night. I woke up and it was at, I think at 69. And then even while I was prepping for this live stream, it was moving between 69 and 70. And what is going on while that happens? Well, people are trading. People are trading. They're buying, they're selling. They're buying, they're selling. Right? And that's happening on Coinbase too. That's all money. How do brokers make money? How does an exchange make money? How does Coinbase make money? Well, every time you buy and sell, they make money. How? The bid and ask spread, right? When you buy, you have to pay the higher price, correct? You have to pay the asking price. When you sell, someone is bidding for whatever, your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, whatever, your meme coin, and they're going to give you a lower price. Well, who makes the spread? Well, yeah, I mean, spread is a substantial, and spread drives up volume. So the more volume there is, the more money you're making off spreads. Then there's margin. Yeah, they will lend you money. Yeah, we'll lend you money, and be like, yeah, here, take it. And so they make money off that. And then there are additional services that they can provide to people. Robinhood has, I forget what their program is, where they charge you $9.99 a month to give you sort of preferential access. Robinhood has their debit card. And they also kind of like they offer to be your bank, where you can have your paycheck go through. So in other words, they are leveraging so many different things. And if you're into Bitcoin, you want to save in Bitcoin, you'll be like, yeah, you know what? I'll have my paycheck go to Robinhood. Now, for some folks who have grown up with legacy banking, this all seems unthinkable. But however, I can tell you that the greatest advantage that all of these companies have is the fact that they are new. They are not wedded to old school systems. They're not wedded to old school ways of doing things. And anyone who has used an app from, whether it be Fidelity, TD, Schwab, E-Trade, which is now owned by Morgan Stanley, and Robinhood or Coinbase, it is night and day. Those old websites are clunky, difficult to use, and are built on like their website versus like Robinhood was built as an app first. And then later on, they built a website. Coinbase, I'm pretty sure they might have had a website first, but their app came pretty soon after. And many people, and that's going to be, in my judgment, most people, just like online shopping originally was like, oh, that's for, those like, people that like to do things sooner than everybody else. Everybody has online shopping. Well, this is going to be the format. And as a result, Robinhood already has 40, 50 million people on, more people will come on, be like, that's just so much easier. It's just the nature of life. All right. So that's stock number 2 for the crypto boom, which is Robinhood, which might be a bit of a surprise. The third one is not going to be a surprise to anybody, which is MicroStrategy. Now, we have held all of these stocks. We've had Coinbase in the silver tier at ATG Digital as a crossover stock from when I was at Banyan Hill. Robinhood, the same thing. And MicroStrategy as well, except this is in our silver tier, which goes for, if I'm right, $14.99 a month. So MicroStrategy in the year 2020, which is now 4 years ago, decided that they would make it their corporate strategy to accumulate a large amount of Bitcoin. And you can see they now own 214,400 Bitcoin, acquired for $7.5 billion with an average cost of 35,180,000, right? Yeah, that's about right. Well, let me just increase the size of this. And I want to talk quickly about the very, very unique strategy that MicroStrategy is using to fund and pay for this Bitcoin. So at some point in time, Michael Saylor, who is the architect and used to be the CEO, I believe he's now the chairman of MicroStrategy, was clearly approached by some number of people after they went on their Bitcoin accumulation strategy by people in the convertible debt market. Convertible debt is debt that where you're essentially buying debt, and if things go right with the stock, then the debt converts into stock. It's used by tech companies a great deal. And so at some point in time, Michael Saylor sat down and worked out. He's like, well, if the debt is out there for long enough, I have enough confidence in Bitcoin that I'm pretty sure that the debt will get wiped out and will issue stock, and the price of Bitcoin will be so much higher that that transaction will be more than worth it to us as a company. So what he did was he did a transaction. I think the first transaction was for something like $300 million, where they took in money from convertible debt, from the convertible debt market. And then they went and bought Bitcoin with it. And then from there, they just kept holding the Bitcoin. And my best guess is that the first tranche of debt has at this point been effectively converted into equity. There might be some time left on the convertible debt. However, Bitcoin is now at $70,000. And that original equity was priced at when MicroStrategy was probably, it certainly wasn't $1,000, might have been like $200-300. So that means that that debt has turned into stock and the debt has been extinguished. And whatever the amount of equity that was issued, it's less than the value of the Bitcoin that was gained. So you can see they take money in here, buy Bitcoin, and Bitcoin goes up, the stock goes up, they extinguish the debt, issue some equity, but the difference between whatever you've paid out and the gain you have in Bitcoin is so great that it makes it worthwhile to do this. And they have since done, I think, 4 or 5 transactions like this, continue to suck in money from the convertible debt market. And Michael Saylor says, we are going to do this till the end of time. In other words, as long as the convertible debt market, which, by the way, has like $650 billion in it. So it's not a small market, right? If they keep funding him, they're going to keep buying Bitcoin. And if they keep buying Bitcoin, it increases the scarcity of Bitcoin. There's a sort of a virtuous cycle here where, my 3 elements of going upness, which is scarceability, valuability, and in-demandness, they just keep going like a virtue wheel that just keeps rolling and rolling. So that one, many people may have heard about MicroStrategy, but they probably don't know the underlying reason for it. Excuse me again. All right, so that's stock number 3. And let's go to stock number 4. And this is, many of you may know, Marathon Digital, which along with CleanSpark are like the 2 most dominant crypto miners. In case you're unaware, crypto, whether it be Bitcoin or Ethereum, has to be mined. And they don't mean like you go into a mine and dig it out like gold or silver. It's a computer process. You have a computer rig and it runs an algorithm. And at the end of it, you get paid for checking various transactions. You get a reward, and it's in cryptocurrency. And there is an industry that is called crypto mining. And Marathon Digital, along with CleanSpark, are 2 of the biggest and best capitalized. Now, I will warn you that Marathon Digital is very, very cyclical relative to Bitcoin halving, and is not something that you should own forever. In other words, there's going to be a cycle, and if I'm right, and it follows the cycle of how gold miners acted relative to gold when gold was a really early asset, when its price was going up. Generally speaking, the miners were a leveraged play on the commodity, and I expect the same thing for Marathon Digital. So if Bitcoin or Ethereum go up, anybody that's mining in these, it should go up by some multiple. Maybe it's 2 times, maybe it's 3 times. That's been my experience. In other words, these are leverage plays, but then they will peak and they will drop. And so at some point in time, we own this in the gold tier. We'll definitely be selling this. So if you buy this, you definitely have to stay on top of it and watch, because at the very top, everything will look great. They'll be printing money, but that's the top of the cycle. And from there, everything gets harder. And I explained this in both in the halving live stream, and also when I did my Bitcoin model forecast thing, YouTube. I told you that once the halving comes, it gets so much harder to mine for Bitcoin. You got to invest in more efficient assets, faster processing, and it's quite expensive. Meanwhile, at some point in time, the price rise is not equal to whatever the additional expenses are. And so now you have the cycle turns and there's a bottom, and oftentimes the bottom is 50, 70, 80% lower. So this is a trade, not like a long-term holding. All right, so that's number 4 with this Marathon Digital. And then finally, the thing that really inspired this live stream, which is this Grayscale Ethereum Trust. I have to say, getting up yesterday and seeing that the SEC was essentially going to do a 180. I mean, they went from wanting to sue the Ethereum Foundation. Remember, Ethereum is not a company, it's not run by a company, but there is a foundation, a not-for-profit organization that sort of like, maintains the code, runs upgrades, etc. But they're not a for-profit company. It's a foundation, and the SEC essentially was looking to sue them. And then suddenly, a week later, they're like, "Oh yeah, hey, by the way, we will approve an ETF in this." Now, that's a shocking turn. Now, equally shocking for me is that while it's not huge, if you buy ETHE today, it is trading at almost. I'm just going to refresh this. Yeah, almost at a 12% discount. So on what? That's like buying, if Ethereum's at 3,300, that's like getting like a $330 discount. I mean, it's not insignificant. 10% discount, 11, 12% discount. Yeah, it's worthwhile. And if I'm right, the moment that the ETF nears approval, this discount will collapse to probably 2 or 3% and then to zero. No different than what happened with the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, which at some point was trading at an equivalent discount like ETHE. Actually, the ETHE, I'm just going to take this off here for a second because I can't really see. But if you look at this chart here, I don't know if you can see it. You can see at the low here, ETHE traded at a nearly 60% discount to the underlying Ethereum held in the trust. I wasn't quite as vociferous about the ETHE discount as I was about the GBTC discount. That one I really pounded the table on regularly. In other words, GBTC was like, I think like 50, maybe 48%. That one I got on and told a lot of people about, and was like, okay. And that discount has obviously gone to zero. So back to this. These are, in my judgment, are they the best? I mean, I think if you own this portfolio, and there is going to be a crypto boom, which in my opinion there is going to be, then will have captured the vast majority of it. Now, some people are like, well, Paul, in the past cycle, it's the meme coins that exploded higher, and Bitcoin was nice, but you got much better gains in meme coins. Yeah, that may be true, but every cycle is different. You don't necessarily know that this cycle is going to replicate the old cycle. And maybe there will be a altcoin season, a shitcoin season, a meme coin season. It's all there. But remember, investing is about two things. There is the potential return. There's the probability of that return. This strategy definitely focuses more on the probability of return. In other words, yeah, Coinbase is the dominant exchange / institution in crypto land. Robinhood is the dominant sort of like regular broker that anybody can access to get you into crypto. MicroStrategy is the largest and the most dominant accumulator of Bitcoin, kind of like almost like an unofficial Fort Knox of Bitcoin, except it's a company. And they have implemented and figured out this very unique strategy to take money from existing strategies, suck it into their company, buy Bitcoin with it, and then issue stock and then make the difference, right? I mean, and they just plan to keep doing that. Very unique, very different, and provides, a levered return on Bitcoin. And I'm going to show you the performance of these five in a second. Marathon Digital is a crypto miner, and I explained the process of how they do business. And finally, ETHE. Now, I'll quickly do like a couple of bonus mentions, which is like stocks like Block, ticker symbol SQ, PayPal. I mean, once the crypto surge begins, you will start to see people essentially just be like, well, I mean, hey, because Block owns, I think, a few $100 million worth of crypto. They built a Lightning Network transaction processor. So, I mean, at some point in time, people will come to that and think of it as a crypto play. But these will really get you into the heart of crypto. All right, with that, I am going to stop. Oh, yeah, let me just do this. Share. Okay, so let's just look at the performance of this sort of like group of stocks. All right. I mean, you can see, these have been We have what? Coinbase. This is a 1-year chart, up nearly 300%. Robinhood up nearly 146%. MicroStrategy 480%. You can tell which stock has the greatest sensitivity to Bitcoin price increases. Marathon Digital up 136%, and the Grayscale Ethereum Trust 304%. But you can also see like the Grayscale Ethereum Trust, I mean, literally has gone up, quite a bit just in the last week or so, as clearly word about this Bitcoin ETF coming out was getting out into the ether. That's a pun. All right, with that, I'm going to take questions on this or on anything else that you want. All right. Rashad compliments me on the outfit. Thank you very much. Harper says, good afternoon. I prefer to be called Harper instead of Linda. Well, noted. And Sid welcomes me back from India and says, get well. Thanks so much. Appreciate the good wishes. And here we have a question on Tesla that I have been asked before, which is that, do you think the shareholders will not approve Elon's pay package? The consensus out there is that it will not go through. Well, let's just say it doesn't go through. And like, let's just scenario play this. Like, yeah, my guess is when the news comes out, the stock will drop, whatever, 3%, maybe 5%. And then all the shareholders who didn't vote will be like, okay, what is the company without Elon? And what is the company with Elon? And what is an appropriate compensation for this man? I do not think there is anyone that can do what Elon does for Tesla, or truthfully for anyone. This is a one-of-a-kind person, one-of-a-kind brain that we are lucky to have at this moment in time. I think of Elon as like sort of like the equivalent of like Edison. I mean, Edison was involved in how many things? I mean, electricity, phonograph, I mean, light bulbs. I mean, that's sort of like the kind of brain that Elon has. And we are lucky to live in this time when we have access to this kind of intellectual firepower. So at some point in time, my best guess is that some scenario will work out, which is that shareholders who value Tesla will start to sell other stuff and buy up enough Tesla so as to be able to run a vote where they know what the outcome is going to be. In other words, hey, at a certain price, people will sell out. Because I mean, the price will almost certainly fall a little bit when this comes through. The other alternative is that they will put through a package that maybe is slightly different around the edges, which will get approval. And in some way, shape, or form, this is going to go through. I mean, there's not an Apple scenario here where Tesla is going to throw out Elon Musk. The board of directors, the world, the investors, people who own Teslas, people who own Powerwalls, anyone who has bought any of their cars, they're like, yeah, we would like this man to be in charge. He may be controversial. He may be different. You may not agree with everything that he says or thinks, but he's a human being and he has worked incredibly hard and he made a deal fair and square. And I think, what's been done, in my opinion, my judgment, is un-American. I mean, at the point in time when he made that deal, people were perfectly okay with it. Why? Because nobody imagined that he would actually hit it. It seemed so ludicrous. It seemed preposterous. And now that it's like happened, and it's not like he sat there and slept like a lot of CEOs don't really do a whole lot. I mean, he slept on the factory floor to try and get the Model 3 production up. So if I'm right, I mean, I'm not going to sweat this. Long term, for me, Tesla is, for this period of time, the greatest stock on earth with the greatest technology and innovation that you can find. We're going to find a way to make sure that Elon gets paid. It'll happen in some way, shape, or form. There's enough people in finance that understand Elon's value, and it will find a way. And small investors will play their part. Big investors will play their part. But in the end, there are enough people that value Elon's contribution to Tesla to figure this out. Harper gives quotes on all of these off the top 5 today. So thank you. Appreciate that. Total Truth says TD Ameritrade does not exist to me. I apologize. I am not keeping up. I do have an E-Trade account. I have a Robinhood account. I have a Coinbase account. And I have a Fidelity account, but I don't have a Schwab account. I guess Interactive Brokers might be the other large company, but once again, you have no access to crypto from there. And even worse, Vanguard, for example, has banned people from buying the Bitcoin ETF on their platform, which is crazy to me. I mean, like, are you asking, like, when you open a brokerage account, do you want them to tell you what you can and cannot do? I certainly don't. I for sure, being that crypto is important to my portfolio and my asset allocation, I definitely would have moved. Harper says, yes, I had an TD Ameritrade account, which is now being handled by Schwab. I actually think, according to the previous poster, that Schwab actually seems to have purchased TD Ameritrade. I did not keep up with this, so I don't really know for sure. More information on TD Ameritrade. So yeah, apparently this conversion is fairly advanced, and the TD Ameritrade has been converted to a Schwab account. More from Harper. TD Ameritrade is not more. I will not learn anything because I have no plans to go back. If anything, my thought is to move actually even more of my money into Robinhood. Fidelity, I still like. There's a level of service there, which is different. And so I like that. Total Truth wants to discuss Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. I like and believe Paul's Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac prediction more than I believe his Bitcoin prediction. Each to his own. Folks who have bought into Bitcoin have done quite well. I believe our original purchase was somewhere when Bitcoin was in 10,000. It went down, dipped to 3,000. Either way, people who have bought in, held on, and we have held on, whether it be to GBTC, whether it be to Bitcoin, whether it be to Ethereum, they have done well. So I'm also hopeful, obviously, that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will do well. They're showing some signs of life. Steve Dolly says, Paul, thanks for your insight and clarity. SQ, which is call it a bonus pick. SQ, which is Block, which is also in the silver tier at ATG Digital. Yeah, I mean, they are the fintech that is like really got their hands in like crypto in a very big way, and that can integrate sort of like the old world of legacy payments, etc., with crypto. Raul says, get well soon, Paul. What about Riot? Is it similar to Mara? That's correct. Riot blockchain is another crypto miner. The reason why we have focused on at ATG Digital, we're focused all of our crypto miner investments on two, which is Mara and CleanSpark, which is at the end of 2023 and to 2022, when things looked very dire. I mean, these two looked the strongest. CleanSpark and Marathon Digital, they had the most money. They already had the greatest output, and that's why we focus on them. However, if I'm right, all the Bitcoin miners at some point will run. It will not be exclusive to just the ones that we put in. We just can't own all of them like we did before. We're a much smaller operation at ATG Digital. So we just focused on the highest likelihood of making the most amount of money. Riot, I think, will do well. There's Hive, and then there's some of the others. They should all pump as the crypto cycle and the crypto boom gets going. Sidji says, if you could own only two cryptos, which two would you hold for 10 plus years? Very easy, Bitcoin and Ethereum. And that's the position we have taken with the silver tier at ATG Digital. We put Bitcoin into the portfolio in March of 2020, maybe January of 2020. Ethereum was, I don't know, maybe 6 months later, and we have held. And our plan is to buy and hold. We know there will be a cycle. We know there will be ups and downs, but yet Bitcoin has very clearly sort of established its place as the dominant store of wealth, crypto. And Ethereum, in my judgment, has also established its place as the dominant platform, blockchain network for financial transactions. You've got so many decentralized finance apps that are built on Ethereum. They obviously generate a lot in fees. They're going to slowly and then suddenly replace different parts of the financial system. So those are two easy ones in my judgment. Pulverizer says he was late and missed the talk. Hey, Pulverizer. Yeah, I mean, we even had it later than usual. Liz, hey, Liz. Always good to see you. Tesla, Bitcoin forever. You said it, girl. I agree. In my opinion, I mean, the current era, which is, of like these very growth companies, innovation companies, you could probably capture the vast majority of it with what Liz is talking about, which is Tesla and Bitcoin. Pulverizer says, I can catch the replay. Absolutely. Yeah, contribute to the views, help the Google algorithm, help other people find us. Rashad asked, do you recommend a cold wallet? Regulators are cracking down on these companies. Any thought? I have purchased a cold wallet, and truthfully, I found it very difficult to operate. The little keypad was about like this big. And then second, I have read enough stories about people losing access to their seed phrases, to the wallet. There's the very famous one of the guy in England that had his Bitcoin on his computer, and they tried to, unearth a landfill to try and get it. So for better and worse, I keep my crypto on Coinbase primarily, secondarily on Robinhood, and third on Block, which is, ticker symbol SQ. And what I do is I keep very close track of these companies. In other words, I'm aware of their financials. I'm aware of the regulatory atmosphere in which they operate. And I am, that's where I keep my crypto. Tammy says, hi, for the ATG digital portfolio, when do you decide when to sell? Well, it depends on the company and it depends on what we're looking at. For example, with Bitcoin, I mean, I don't know when we'll sell, truthfully. Now, that doesn't mean like, if people ask me during, an update, etc., or they send me questions like, Paul, you released this forecast model for Bitcoin that says it's going to hit its next peak in November of next year. Some people, if you're much older and you want to sell and exchange for fiat, you can. But generally speaking, for something like Bitcoin, I don't know when we'll sell. Why? Because they are always, who's they? I mean, the government, the central banks around the world are always issuing money, and Bitcoin is finite. So I'd rather keep more of my money in Bitcoin, or truthfully, even in crypto. Why? Because crypto is accountable. You can go on the blockchain and see how many Ethereum have been issued, how many are in circulation. No one knows really how many dollars are in circulation, how many were ever issued. So my personal preference is to keep more of my wealth in crypto and absorb the volatility. Obviously, the money that I need to pay bills, etc., that obviously has to be in fiat, in US dollars, and I do that. Then for companies, etc., we look at the financials. We also look at the long-term sort of prospect for the business. Some businesses, most of the businesses that we have invested in through our stocks in our portfolios are very young. And it is completely reasonable to go through extraordinary volatility when they are young, when they're still sort of like figuring out their operations, figuring out how to, optimize their business model. So we'll take some number of profits, either because we just need to periodically take some profits to show people that we actually make money. Periodically, some of the companies will get bought out, and that will be an exchange. But it really depends on the investment and the company and crypto. What about Shiba Inu? My experience of the world is that, generally speaking, for a niche novelty type investment, which I'll put meme coins in, generally, if you're going to play in this at all, you want to be in the dominant coin. All right. And the dominant meme coin is the first coin, which is Dogecoin. Dogecoin is like the equivalent of Bitcoin for meme coins. That is likely to get the greatest amount of money, and hence the most likely to have, a big rise. Everything else from there will get less money whenever meme coins shine. Now, that doesn't mean that like a completely illiquid new meme coin can't just rocket up by 1,000,000%. But will I know which one it is? I don't know. I'd rather go with the certainty of making money in this. And so we have Dogecoin, which is a holding in the silver tier at ATG Digital. And I can see a purpose because there have been people who have used Dogecoin as a medium of exchange. I mean, artists have been using it for some time. There are entire communities that use it. There are certain countries where people use Dogecoin as a medium of exchange. I don't know if there are too many places where Shiba Inu, I don't know what are some of the others. If those have any kind of like an established use case, and so we have stuck with Dogecoin, but it could happen. I mean, it's nobody would have imagined that Shiba Inu would have a market capitalization in the billions, so anything's possible. Anthony Perry says, "Hey Paul, how is Bitcoin so close to all-time highs, but miners are still so low compared to their highs?" Well, I mean, miners are not a straight up proxy for Bitcoin. They transact in Bitcoin and then they sell the Bitcoin as they make it to pay their expenses. So it's not like MicroStrategy. And then once the halving happened on April 19th, it's now a period of reckoning to look at the miners and be like, okay, you're now being paid half. Just remember, if you're a miner, you are generating double the income for every Bitcoin that you mine prior to April 19th. Your revenue has halved. And now you need that Bitcoin price to pump by nearly double to make the same amount of money. So the market, looks forward, and at the present time, it's not seeing enough of a price pump in Bitcoin to be like, okay, the value of these companies higher. But the moment you start to see a big surge in Bitcoin, people will come in and start to bid the miners higher, because at some point in time, we're going to get to a very high number in Bitcoin where it will look like it's all golden. The amount of Bitcoin that they're mining is like, worth a lot. Whatever Bitcoin they're holding in storage is worth a lot. People will come up with even higher projections for Bitcoin than whatever anybody imagines. And people project that into the future, and then these stocks will boom. But right now, it's a period of uncertainty. And that's, in my opinion, that's the reason for it. Antonio's House of Pizza says, "Hey, Paul, I currently hold Roblox in my long-term hold. What's the projection of Roblox?" Roblox is a metaverse stock that we put into the portfolio when I was at Banyan Hill. We've carried it over at ATG Digital. They continue to do very well, but we're not in a market where people are bidding up or are incredibly interested in these growth stocks. Why? I mean, there are cycles to stocks right now. The fascination and the interest is still primarily with very big tech companies, dividend companies, safety companies, etc. There will be a period, if I'm right, in the second half of this year as economic growth weakens, and people will come back into growth in a very big way. And now Roblox, which has developed their business in a big way, they've cut costs, they're focused on projects, it will rocket higher and go back to its old high and then make new highs because, yeah, I mean, they've got still 20 or 30 million users. The vast majority of their users are under 25. They spend extraordinary amounts of money. As these users become older, they will continue to play on Roblox. Oh, how do we know this? Well, the folks in their 30s and 40s who started on Nintendo are still playing Nintendo. So they'll be on Roblox. They'll have even more money. So the long-term prospects for Roblox are very, very good. Short-term, we have to continue to go through this churn that we are seeing in Roblox and stocks like it. Is desktop crypto for hold crypto? I'm not sure I understand. It's a desktop wallet. I mean, a desktop wallet is in the end a physical wallet, and you face the same risks. Obviously, a computer can be hacked. You can forget the passphrase. I personally use Coinbase, and they have a vault, which adds 2 layers of security to it. Nobody can issue a request to move the crypto without 48 hours passing, and you have to give approval through 2 separate email addresses. So personally, that's what I trust, and I trust the folks at Coinbase. So for me, that's been my choice. Stephen, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correct, Fosho the second says XRP. XRP is in our silver tier portfolio at ATG Digital. We have put that in because, in my opinion, this is a custom-made blockchain network for the movement of money. And people may think, well, Paul, why can't I just move money by Bitcoin? You could, but you might run into regulatory hurdles, government hurdles. So to have a custom-built blockchain where there are some controls and people who are, who are 100% for decentralization and all these things, be like, Paul, that's terrible. Hey, you can have your view. But, the world is not like where there's only one solution. There's no business in which there's only one solution. There's always multiple things going on, serving different needs. And XRP and Ripple, they've built their entire blockchain really for the movement of money. And they've established themselves beachheads in Asia. They're looking to establish themselves over here. They're obviously in a fight with the US government through the SEC. I believe that will be settled. And so there is a place for XRP, and the money movement business is large. And they essentially can take a fee, a small fee. And remember, a blockchain network, their costs are fixed. So if you run huge volume through, you get a large amount of fees. That's the thesis on which we have continued to hold XRP, despite the price of XRP going nowhere for a long time. What about MNTS? MNTS, as I have said, anytime I've been asked, whether it be in updates at ATG Digital or on YouTube or on X or anywhere or on Facebook, is that this company is either going to go bankrupt or else it is going to be the comeback of a century. They do have an extraordinary technology, which is their water-based propulsion system, which is sci-fi. I mean, I've never heard of anything like it. I've not seen anybody else like it. Yet they are precariously positioned in terms of their finances. They're always on the verge of running out of money. But the Department of Defense seems to want to keep them around and keeps giving them small amounts of money. Will that be enough? I don't know. I've committed to kind of like hold it in the silver tier ATG Digital portfolio because we had it at Banyan Hill, and so many people clearly bought into it. We're going to see it through and see what happens. Rashad says, how much cash would you recommend? Do you have to take advantage of upcoming dips? 20% of portfolio. I mean, I don't trade short term, and I don't recommend our ATG Digital portfolios. We don't manage the model portfolios looking for short term dips. I do go on the updates and say, hey, if after something gets sold down, bid down hard, I'm like, okay, this looks good. But generally, our view is equal weight, hold it and let it be. And if you're looking on an overall asset allocation basis, generally you want to overcommit to stocks when prices are low, and you want to have greater amounts in cash when prices are high. So that is obviously relative to a longer cycle. Each one has to kind of like look at it themselves. I mean, if you want to retire in 2 years, your time frames are shrunk. I mean, we're looking at much longer time frames than maybe some of you. But generally speaking, when prices are high, you want to keep cash because that inevitably high prices draw sellers. And at some point in time, low prices get like absorbed in by buyers, and then a scarcity develops. Then when there's demand, the price goes higher. But for short terms, you have to like implement some shorter form of that. Harper has a question that says, what are the best places to buy crypto if you're like me, an American living in South America? Truthfully, Harper, I do not know. I would suggest that, there's also different legal restrictions in many of these countries. You don't want to get into trouble. So I think like a very long Google search and reading through local experts talking about Bitcoin and where they hold it would be your best path to finding this out. Tammy Klein says, would you hold ETH over ETHE? I have ETHE and I've had good gains past 2 days, wondering if ETH is more secure than ETHE. Well, they are, if once the ETF is approved, they will essentially be the same thing. The big difference will be that with ETH, you own the cryptocurrency. With ETHE, you own a representation of the cryptocurrency. But once the ETF is approved, they will move up and down in sort of equivalent fashion. The other difference that ETHE you can own in your brokerage account. ETH if you're at Robinhood, you can own. Otherwise, you'd have to have a Coinbase account to own it. But functionally, according to the scuttlebutt, this is going to be approved this week. So that 10% discount, should disappear soon, and then they'll be the same. But yeah, I mean, there's no difference long term. Harper says, speaking of bankruptcy, Red Lobster has filed for bankruptcy. I did see that. That's sad. I do remember having a few good meals at Red Lobster when I was in college. Brian asked, is Uber at risk with Tesla's robo-taxi? Not in my opinion. I mean, Uber, uses Toyotas, uses all kinds of cars. What will they do? I mean, once the robo-taxis become prominent, they'll buy Teslas and run it on their network. That's what I expect to happen. I don't believe Tesla wants to have a monopoly because they're going to continue to sell cars to individuals. How is Uber any different than any other individual? They will just buy, Ubers and run it on that network, in my opinion. Rashad says, greatly appreciate your honesty and work you do. Well, I appreciate you attending the live stream. Thoughts on VFS, VinFast? I was in Vietnam, and I saw a number of these cars, and I have to say the styling was very good. The finish quality looked pretty good. The people in Vietnam are obviously pretty stoked about VinFast. Over here, it's, there's even a local connection. VinFast has opened its operation not so far away from me in North Carolina. I want to say this is a long shot, but I have toyed with putting VinFast into the gold tier or maybe diamond tier portfolio. I mean, the market capitalization of VinFast is a few $1 billion. They obviously have a long way to go, but my thought process is this, which is that no one in the 1960s or 1970s would have imagined that Japan would eventually become an enormous competitor to the United States or Europe in terms of making cars. Most people treated Japanese cars like some form of a joke. And so in the current period, China and Vietnam, yeah, they are making interesting cars. They're making EVs, which are the technology of our time. The place where there's a weakness really is in software development, which is like, if they can't, provide a software experience that's equivalent to a Tesla or equivalent to one of their competitors, they have an issue. But nonetheless, everything that I have read about the founders, have seen about the car, says that it's a speculative shot on goal for a company that could make it as a major EV maker. And the benefit would be this, which is that certainly at current prices, it's not discounted into the stock. So if they have a bunch of great quarters and they start to produce more cars, people start to buy it, the stock could rise, but no guarantees on what can happen. Liz wants to know, do you ever stake your crypto? If so, or if not, why? I definitely stake my Ethereum on Coinbase. They have made it very easy. It's a one-step process on Coinbase, and I have the vast majority of all of my Ethereum on Coinbase staked. I also own another cryptocurrency called Tezos, and that is also staked on Ethereum. And as it currently stands, it's quite easy to unstake and go. Earlier on, it was quite complicated to unstake yourself. Now, all of these things have been made much easier. So it's like being paid interest. I believe the current staking rate on Ethereum is something like a little bit under 3%. But I've generated quite a few Ethereum as a result of just being staked. Final question here. Hi, Paul. Given the current market conditions and technological advancements, which cryptocurrency, Bitcoin or Ethereum, might be a better investment right now? Well, at any given time, at the end, like when Bitcoin hits its next peak, and there's obviously going to be ups and downs, but we're talking about, Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy talks about Bitcoin being around for 1,000 years. Okay, that's obviously too far, but it's going to be around for a long time. So there's going to be points in time where Ethereum outperforms. There's going to be time when Bitcoin outperforms. They have two different purposes. Bitcoin is a store of value, kind of like gold, that you might store your wealth in. And Ethereum is a transactional cryptocurrency that the future financial system is going to be built on. That's my viewpoint. They both have slightly different risks, slightly different upside and downside profiles, and they won't always just match each other. I mean, usually after Bitcoin sort of hits a peak, that's usually it's after that that Ethereum hits the peak, because money kind of comes out from Bitcoin and pushes into Ethereum and into the altcoins, etc. So I can't really give you an answer that one is better than the other. They're different and they each serve their purpose. All right, we have gone a record 1 hour and 10 minutes. Liz says thank you, and I say thank you back to you, Liz. Especially always love your optimism and encouragement. Very grateful to all of you for being here on this live stream. Check us out at atgdigital.media for subscriptions. And yeah, come back next week when I'll have another live stream. Until then, this is Paul saying bye.